Although Singapore is a new and modern nation, it is a history steeped in tradition and the supernatural. Right now I'm walking along Kim Hock Road, one of the wealthiest streets in Singapore, lined with large, expensive homes. But just around the corner, beyond the underpass, is a road that leads to the underworld, dubbed the Village of the Dead, a 213-acre abandoned Chinese cemetery. Or is it? Like many cemeteries, Bukit Brown Chinese Cemetery is a gold mine of history, with over 80,000 graves, including many of the pioneers and forefathers of Singapore.
A wealth of information is contained on their tombstones, providing personal histories and insights into the burial rituals, feng shui practices, and symbols of Chinese culture.
But one of the most fascinating aspects of the cemetery is just over there.
The Kampong hut.
Kampong is Malay for village. Scattered throughout the cemetery are a number of these huts, and collectively they're known as a kampong. As a result of the explosion of burial numbers in its heyday, the villagers here started taking care of the graves and made the graves business their livelihood. However, as kampongs were synonymous with disease and poor sanitation, the villagers here were relocated in the 1970s to newer government housing, in line with government policy to phase out these dangerous living conditions. In fact, according to popular press, there's only one such remaining village in Singapore, Kampong Lorong Bongkok, located in the northeast. But really there are two, as most do not know some of the villagers in this cemetery chose to remain here and a few still live here today.
I met with paranormal expert and investigator Charles Goh.
Thanks, Charles.
Hi Derek, let's go.
Who's going to take us to see one of the villagers, otherwise known as the Tomb Keepers.
So how did you first discover the Tomb Keepers were living here in the village cemetery?
Well, I'm a Singapore licensed tourist guide and I bring people for spooky tours in Singapore. That includes the cemetery. So in one of my night expeditions, I noticed that there was a light flickering in the distance. Now, not thinking that maybe it's a ghost, we actually approached closer and we realized that it was there was a hut in the cemetery and there's a candle light. The candle is from inside, and I realized that there are people actually staying here.
Okay, we're just a few meters away from one of the places where one of the Tomb Keepers lives, called the Tomb House. Now, these guys are very elusive. They very rarely talk to outsiders. So I'm not holding out that we may actually see him, but at least we'll get to see how they live.
Coming up on Secrets of Asia, Derrick meets one of the Tomb Keepers.